So, Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome back, all of you, to our weekly discussion on Bhagavad Gita. And we will, as you all know, we discuss different topics of Bhagavad Gita, which we picks up from different verses or set of verses, and we try to understand their deeper meaning and try to understand their practical application in our day-to-day life. So, with this, we picked up topic for today as different paths and different results. And we'll talk about that a little bit more with reference to some of the verses from Bhagavad Gita. So let's do a recap. Last Sunday, we discussed about demigod worship, and unfortunately, we couldn't since the topic was quite vast and had lots of question answers that followed after this topic. We couldn't really complete. What we intended to complete in the last session. So what we'll do is we'll do a quick recap for those who were not there in the last Sunday, and then we'll move forward with the subsequent verses which we were supposed to cover in last Sunday, but but we'll add on to some of those verses, uh, to some of the couple of other verses, and make the discussion. Hopefully, should be able to complete that discussion in today's session. So with this, let's get started. So last Sunday we discussed the role that demigods play in the material world, and what do they do, how why it is important, what is their role, and what are their responsibilities, and what a sadhaka should do. Some of those things we discuss elaborately in our last session. What we'll do is we'll do a quick recap of those, and then we'll move forward. So this is the story we spoke about last Sunday, the return of the prodigal son, a slight extension than what appears in the Bible, biblic story. What appears there, we've created a small extension of that, whereby a son, a young to a father, king has two sons. Younger son asks for his inheritance from the father, the inheritance which you normally get when the father dies. His inheritance is distributed among son, but this son was so upset, so pissed off with his father, that while his father was alive and he was ruling the kingdom, he asked for his own inheritance, and he gets his money, he gets whatever is his due, he takes it and leaves the kingdom and go outside the kingdom, being prodigal in nature. Prodigal हिंदी में हम बोल सकते हैं अय्याश राजकुमार, those who have wasteful and extravagant spending habit, and so no matter how much you give them, they may end up finishing it off in no time. So that's what happened with this prince also, who took a lot of money with him, which he got as inheritance from his father, and he went outside the kingdom of his father and started living there um, extravagantly, and soon he became penniless, he became poor, he spent all his money, all his fortune, and became poor, became destitute, well, left with no money for survival, and he didn't wanted to go back to his father. He started working for a cruel master, and that cruel master who would make him work hard and pay him very, very little, just enough for his survival. Now, having seen this, the father is worried. The father is not only prepared, ready to accept his son who has so misbehaved and left him alone and gone outside. Now the father has no enmity towards his son. He just feels bad about him, and he know he's suffering also. That after he wanted to become happy, he thought he will become happy by going away from father, by getting all the fortunes that today is controlled by his father. The son felt he will become very happy. On the contrary, he became extremely sad, he became extremely poor, he became extremely painful, and he started living in a very poor condition. Though he was a prince, he forgot he was a prince. And then while spending life there, the father is waiting for his son to return. He's not only prepared to accept his son wholeheartedly. Whenever he walks in, he is doing more, He's doing much more than that. What is he doing? He's creating situation for that son to, or remember, give his son a remembrance of him, and eventually come back to him. So father is not only waiting inactively, he's actively trying to get his son back into first his kingdom, then into his palace, and then into his heart. So this is special quality of Krishna. This is described in Vedic scriptures. So they give a far detailed description of concept of God than any other scriptures. And so in the prayers offered by Gajendra, he referred to Krishna as Bhuri Karunaya, the one who is unlimitedly merciful. So he said, "Why should I help you?" Because he's saying, "You are a Bhuri Karunaya. You are unlimitedly merciful. You are no reason because you are good. You are being merciful to me, not because I am good to you." That irrespective of how son behaves, the father's position is so great, God's position is so great that he continues to be merciful, continues to have karuna for his son, compassion for his son. So he's unlimitedly merciful. There is nothing that we can do that can upset Krishna so much that he will refuse to accept us. There is nothing in Jiva's capacity to do that will upset Krishna so much that he will say, "I will never to accept you back." There is nothing we can do like that. So Krishna, no matter how bad we become, no matter how wrong things we do, Krishna is always ready to accept us, no matter how bad we are. Now his readiness to accept us is because of his own goodness, has got nothing to do with us. Howsoever we might be, he is good, therefore he is willing to accept us. Now he doesn't just stop there. He just does not wish and will that hope you will come back. He's trying also. He's a lot of putting in a lot of effort also in that direction. So Gajendra says, "You are not only a Bhuri Karunaya, you are Alayaya." Alayaya means he's never idle, he is never inattentive in trying, means he's continuously trying for my deliverance, for creating a facility, giving me opportunity to get attracted to Krishna ultimately and then come to Krishna. He's ever trying for that. So how does he try? He knows his son will not, even if he goes personally, his son is, he will not accept him. So he sends one of his minister to recruit his son and get him back into the kingdom. So recruit so the minister goes and get this son back into the kingdom by paying him more, by offering him more, by giving him something that in return for whatever he may ask. And that is what demigods do. Demigods will grant some of our small wishes. If we have punya, seeing that they will grant some of our wishes sooner than earlier, and thereby your faith towards that demigod can become stronger. So they have some capability to give, which actually comes from the supreme lord, which like minister's capacity to give something to this prince comes from king, because king, he's himself is being maintained by the king, so he's not independent, neither he's independent to give. Similarly, Krishna is the giver, original giver, and the minister may be appear, may, it may appear that minister is giving something to the prince, but it's actually been given by king. The king is giving to minister, and minister is just passing it on to the prince. And that's what role the demigods play. They don't give anything independently because they themselves get it from Krishna, and then as per Krishna's sanction, they give it to the jivas. So this is sometimes critical. If we have no faith on the conception of God, this kind of small gestures, small things that are given by demigods can increase our attraction, create awareness about some higher power, and make us curious to know more about these higher powers and inquire in that direction. And so this is definitely better than living a godless life, godless materialistic life. So so for them it is better to at least start worshipping demigods, and that's what the Vedas largely provide for. So that people can instead of living without God, they come to God, they start living with God. Which God? Supreme God is beyond their conception. So let them start with whatever conception of God that could suit their intellect, suit their current level of consciousness, and somehow or the other they start engage in some devotional activity, though it is towards the demigod. But at the least they are saved from the gross materialism, godless materialism. So the prince returns and starts serving the minister. Eventually prince, if he's intelligent enough, he will inquire further that where my minister is getting his fortune from, and then he realizes that there is a king who has more power than the minister. The minister is actually employed by that king. So he goes to the king and asks him, can I start working for you? Can you satisfy my desires? And king says, yes, I can. This is what at the initial stage the Chaturvida Bhajante Mam, uh, Arto Jigyasi, Artharthi, and Jnani. So Jnani is also a desire, a need, a requirement of a people to satisfy the Jnan. They are also full satisfied by Krishna. Similarly, Arto, when we are in distress, Krishna can give relief from distress. Jigyasu, he can satisfy all jigyasas by the people. And artharthi, one may want to trade something with Krishna. Krishna is ready to do that also, because of his eagerness to get you back into his heart, his palace, and ultimately in his heart. So Krishna is also ever eager, that he calls such jivas mahatma, sa mahatma sudurlabha. Now sa mahatma sudurlabha is not immediate reaction that jivas get when they start worshipping Krishna initial period. But king or the Krishna wants is patient enough for this, and eventually by this, through this interaction, the jivas not only realizes that he's not our order supplier, he's not somebody uh, who will give what I want. He has our benevolent, he's the most well-wisher, he's our well-wisher also. He just doesn't give me what I desire. And how does that know? A cigarette vendor may give a boy a cigarette, um, if he pay, provided he pay the price. As long as he pay the price, the cigarette vendor may give whatever the boy wants. But what if his own son come and ask, pay him the same money and ask for a cigarette? He may not give. He may take the money and chastise the son, telling him that how harmful cigarettes are for his health, and so he should never take up to the smoking. so so there is a different treatment being given by different, based on who are you dealing with. So demigod may give us what we want as long as we pay him the currency. We pay him the currency of punya. Krishna, despite of we paying him the currency of punya, may not give us what we want if it is detrimental to our spiritual growth, for our spiritual our for our spiritual progress. If it is harmful for our spiritual progress, he may not give us. He's not obliged to give, and he is supremely independent, and he will not give, because he not only wants, he wants to maintain you. That is, so when when we say that Krishna will take care of us, he will take care of us, he will overall take care of us. So we exist at three level, and all three level Krishna can take care of us. At the physical level, where we need food, shelter, clothing, some place to live, and so these are the basic things that everyone will require for whatever time they will have to spend on this planet. These 4 5 things will be fundamentally required Some of those will be biological needs of us, and so Krishna will provide for those also. At a mental level, so this is at taken care of at a physical level. At a mental level, Krishna will take care of us by giving us peace of mind, by giving us happiness. And at a spiritual level, Krishna will ensure that uh, you develop love for him eventually, and you cultivate remembrance of about Krishna, and you are able to progressively surrender to Krishna, and thereby come to Krishna at the end of our life. So this is his mood. This is how Krishna is actively working with every each and every jiva. He's directing, he's suggesting through through the heart, through he's present in our heart, and from there he's giving us signals, he's communicating with us, he's telling us what to do, what not to do, and so on and so forth. So Krishna is actively working for getting us back into his abode, and sometimes we are cooperative with him, sometimes we are not cooperative with him. So but he's constantly trying and he's waiting. So this is the mood in which finally when the jiva surrenders to the prince surrenders to Krishna, he wholeheartedly welcomes him. So though the sarvadharman parityajya is the instruction given, not everyone is able to follow it, and hence the demigod worship becomes so critical. So people worship through people worship Krishna through the worship of demigods. Yeah. So uh, so moving forward, um, do demigods, what kind of authority that they have? Now the demigods have limited authority, because why? Because whatever is dharma, whatever has to be done by the living entities is called dharma, and that dharma can only be prescribed by Krishna. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranita. This is the conversation we discussed last session between Yamaraj and Yamadutas. So when Ajamil was Yamduta reached the place where Ajamil was about to give up his body, and they started pulling his soul, and they thought Ajamil is their property, because Ajamil has lived a very sinful life. All throughout life he has made so much sins, and that Yamaduta said he's a perfect case for us to take him back to Yamaloka. But at the same time, the Vishnu Dutas arrived there, and then there was a big debate, a big quarrel, big conversation that took place between Yamadutas and Vishnu Dutas, who claimed to be the rescuer of Ajamila. And then Yamaduta says he's lived so much sinfully. So how can you have jurisdiction over them? He's not a devotee. And then Vishnudutta says, no, he chanted name of Lord Narayana at the end of life. And he remembered Lord Narayana while giving up his body. So he is our property. And then with this conversation, Yamadutas had to accept defeat, and they went back. And then they met up with Yamraj himself. And then at that time, Yamraj told him or instructed them, give them instructions that uh, what is dharma. And so he says very beautifully that dharma, real religious principles, are enacted by supreme personality of Godhead. Just like GST, ultimately it has to be done by the king, or tax rate has to be determined by the king. Nobody else, everybody below king just has to implement what has been enacted. But the power to enact only rests with the king. Similarly, power to tell what is dharma and what is adharma is with Supreme Lord, because that's his power. That's everything comes from him. Knowledge comes from him. So the rules, regulation also comes from him. Others' role is to just get those implemented in the material world. So what is the Bhagavata? so then, so what is the role of others? Others also appears to be Gyanis. So they say that everyone. Then Yamaraj discusses various probable competitors for Krishna that we may perceive as a jiva, as we may perceive a rishi muni to be a very saintly, very knowledgeable person. So can rishi muni give knowledge? Yamaraj says no. Can demigods give knowledge? The Brahma, the Indra, Shiva, Lord Shiva, can they all give knowledge because they are gods? They can do so much magic. They can have so many. They have so much power, mightily powerful demigods. Uh, can they give knowledge? Can they determine what is dharma? Krishna, Yamaraj says no. Even they cannot. What to speak of then asuras and ordinary human beings? What is our Baba? Here कोई गली में बाबा होता है. Is he God? Can he determine what is dharma? The Yamaraj says no. So all these competitors, Yamaraj take one after another and says none of them are God, because Krishna is only God and he can dictate. It is only his. Uh, it is only it is only in his jurisdiction to dictate what is dharma, what should be done, what should not be done. And what is dharma is explained very nicely in the next section. The Bhagavata dharma is to surrender unto Supreme Lord and love for him. Surrender unto Supreme Lord and love for him is Bhagavata dharma, or the Sanatan dharma of a jivas. That is dharma. Now that everything should be done in this mood. And before that, Yamaraj also goes through a list of those 12 Mahajanas who have authority to preach what Krishna has spoken. So even they are not authority. They are authority in preaching, not in determining what dharma is. So, and that list includes Brahma, Bhagavan Narada, Lord Shiva, four Kumaras, Kapila Muni, some Swayambhuva Manu, Prasad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, Bhishma Dev, Bali Maharaj, Sukadev Goswami, and Yamraj himself. And he says, I am that part of the 12 member committee who are who can preach what has been spoken by Lord Krishna, who has ability to, or who has capacity to give knowledge, what Krishna has given, teach it further. So, but none of us plus the none from the previous list can manufacture a religion, can produce a religion on their own, can create some rules and regulation of their own, saying that this is okay because I am saying it. None of them have the authority. Then what to speak of people in this world? Um, who or the asuras, they none of them have authority. So the only authorized person to give knowledge is Krishna himself. And that Krishna has given that knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. He's spoken that knowledge elaborately as a matter of principles in Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavatam elaborate through the various case studies how that knowledge was practiced by some of the beautiful devotees of Lord, and how Lord reciprocated with them when they practiced it in that way. So this is extremely confidential and difficult for ordinary human being to understand. Why? Because they may refer to Vedas, but Krishna is hidden in Vedas. Krishna is not apparent in Vedas. So by following Vedas, one may feel that they are following religion, but that is incomplete knowledge. And whatever the religion will they follow, that is also not sufficient for them to go back to Krishna, which is the ultimate objective of one's taking human birth. Now, the why it is confidential, why it is difficult, because it is understood through Krishna's mercy, and Krishna's mercy is available to only those who are surrendered to Krishna. So those devotees who surrender themselves to Krishna, the Krishna bestowed his mercy upon them. Through that mercy, because of that mercy, they are able to understand Krishna. So Krishna's knowledge becomes property of his unalloyed devotees, of his pure devotees. And since those devotees are very few, uh, that knowledge otherwise cannot be understood by anyone, and hence it becomes a confidential matter of subject matter to be understood only by very few, though it is widely available. Just like uh, just like ghee is hidden in milk, or the pot is hidden in clay. A heap of clay, the pot is hidden in that, but the pot contains mud and the ghee contains milk. Similarly, Krishna is hidden in everything, in this world, in this material world, in the Vedas, instructions of Vedas, everywhere. Krishna is hidden. He has to be understood. He can only be understood when he gives his mercy to the devotees, and the devotees approach him in that mood, to seek his mercy, to ask for his mercy, desirous of his mercy. When they approach him, Krishna gives his mercy. So he becomes, everything becomes a matter not to be, though it is publicly available, it is not understood by everyone because people don't know it, as simple as that. So if anybody who fortunately understand it, he is immediately liberated. Does he return home, back to Godhead? We talked about a few verses from Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, or different chapters of Bhagavad Gita, which talks about Vedas and the demigod worshippers. And some of these verses we discuss that men of small intelligence, Krishna. So objective of studying these aspects again is just to conclude that demigod worship is not approved by Krishna, is not recommended by Krishna. He does not want us to go in that direction, and that's been established very, very clearly through the flow of these verses. so the so the those who are desirous of sense gratification and opulent life can start performing activities to please the demigods, hoping that they will grant these things to them. Then Traigunya Vishaveda 2.45, then the 2.46 verse, which talks about a small well and reservoir. Then 2.53, again we discussed those verses. That all these verses talks about the Vedas being dealing with the three modes of material nature. So the simple way to understand it is, whatever we do in Sattva Guna, Rajoguna or Tamoguna, based on our desires, based on our inclinations, based on our gunas on which we operate, we are likely to, we will definitely create reactions in for our karma, whatever karma we may do. We may get some benefits out of it, but even if we don't get benefits out of it, we are incurring reactions. We are creating fruits for ourselves, and those fruits will become the root cause for which we will have to take birth again. Uh, so there is no liberation that can be foreseen by following this practice, by following the following what has been advised in the Vedic rituals, because all of those will create fruits for which we will have to take birth again. That's unavoidable, and that's what exactly Krishna is harping in this entire conversation, that you don't have to take birth again. You should do something by which you should not take birth again. And what is it that can be done to avoid repeated birth or the next birth is what will be spoken later. What we have already seen that in the 8th chapter. But so taking this demigod discussion further, Krishna says that for worshipping any deity, any demigod, also you need faith. Krishna says, I make that faith steady. Whatever the benefits demigods are giving are given me or bestowed by me alone. So he said, I cannot, no demigod can work independently of me. So whatever they have to grant to you, I have to sanction it to them first, basis which they give it to you. What is the problem with this method? Because the demigods themselves are limited. They are temporary. The fruits that they are going to give are limited. The worshippers are limited by themselves also, because they will also not attain perfection. They will not attain eternity by worshipping any demigod. Why? Because none of the demigods are eternal by themselves. So everything is lost. The whole effort becomes null and void. The whole because for worshipping a demigod also you'll require time. You'll invest time, money, energy, and your own devotion. There will be so much austerities that one may perform in worshipping any devata, and end of it, if it's going to go waste, as Krishna has clearly stated here, it's temporary, and it's whatever you get is temporarily limited, and everything will be lost. And that is where we all have to rethink, should we do it, should we not do it. Further, 9th chapter, Krishna says, tetam bhaktva स्वर्ग लोकम विशालम क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्य लोकम विशंति एवं त्रयी धर्म मनु प्रपन्ना गता गतम काम कामान लभन्ते. That the क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्य लोकम विशंति. पुण्य क्षीण होने के बाद, क्षीण मीन्स खत्म होने के बाद, having gone to heaven and enjoyed heavenly sense pleasures, uh, the result of their pious activities are exhausted, खत्म हो जाता है, and then they return to this mortal planet again. Because Swarga is not a place to incur karma. Swarga is a place to exhaust your punya karma. So the no new fresh karmas can be added there. You go and exhaust whatever your accumulated karma is there. So we don't come gradually down. We just come down to this Martyaloka, because Martyaloka is where you have opportunity to perform actions which will produce reactions. So Martyaloka, Bhuloka is a place, is where you have ability to perform actions only in human form, again, not in animal form, but you can perform actions which can yield reactions. Now you do act in satoguna and get good reactions, rajoguna and tamoguna and get bad reactions, and continue to suffer repeated birth and death in the current world. But using the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, which is the manual for life, you can perform such activities which will yield no reactions, plus it will burn the previous reactions, previous accumulated reactions, and that opens up door for liberation, door for you to go back to Krishna and end the cycle of birth and death. So this is the secret message of Bhagavad Gita. This is the knowledge that Krishna is trying to give all through in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says in the purport that one who is promoted to the higher planetary system enjoy a longer duration of life and better facilities for sense enjoyment. Yet one is not allowed to stay there forever. One is again sent back to this earth upon finishing the resultant fruits of pious activities. So none of the demigod worship can help you go back to Krishna, because not all paths lead to same destination. So if we have Krishna as our destination, we have no other choice but to surrender to Krishna and worship Krishna. So conclude on the demigod topic. So this section of verses, Krishna is comparing the demigod worshippers with pure devotees. That this is what is the condition of demigod worshippers. And who all the demigods we have seen? Brahma is the prominent demigod. The prominent demigods are Brahma, Lord Shiva. Brahma, Lord Shiva are the Mahajanas themselves, who are preaching what Krishna has spoken. The principles of Bhagavad Gita are being preached by these 12 Mahajanas, so that the people can understand them properly and practice them properly. So they are not competitors, they are acharyas, they are teachers of Bhagavad Dharma, or Kaitava, or the Sanatan Dharma. They are the teachers of that Sanatan Dharma. So they are not no way competition to Krishna. The Shiva, Lord Shiva is no competition to Krishna. Lord Ganesha in Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma says that Ganesha is ready to take both your feet, O Lord, on his head. That same Lord Ganesha who can, who can mercifully give so many benediction to so many people, because he says he gets his powers from you, O Lord, and Lord Narasimha basically. So Lord Ganesha is also not a competition. The 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 Shakti Tattva of Lord, which is Maya Devi, and now that is also, she's also conclusively known to be working under the supervision of Supreme Lord, where Krishna says Maya Dhyakshena Prakriti. He says in 7th chapter that I am beyond the modes of material nature which are controlled by this Maya Devi. If you surrender to me, Mayam etam tarantite. That once you surrender to me, then you can float over this power, which is Daiviya Esha Gunamayi, which is not ordinary. This is Daivi power. Daiviya Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratvaya Mam Evam Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite. That one, if you surrender to me, then only you are able to cross over this Maya. Otherwise, you will drown in this Maya. So Maya is someone who is not superior to Krishna, is a subordinate to Krishna, and then later confirms that Maya Dhyakshane Prakriti Suyate Sacharachara. The same Prakriti, same Maya Devi. So, having gone through all the demigods, different demigods that could potentially become competition to Krishna, and having seen through various pastimes how those demigods actually surrender to Krishna and and beg for protection from Krishna. Lord Indra, in many pastimes in Bhagavatam, he goes to Lord Brahma asking for solution, and then Brahma takes him to Lord Vishnu, who is one of the expansions of Sankarsana, and Sankarsana, who is expansion of Krishna. So they're no way closer to Krishna. They're no way proper match to Krishna in terms of power. So Krishna continues to be the Sarva Karana Karana. For him there is no reason. He is the reason for every other reason. So whatever we may think, whatever demigod we may have close to our heart, we should know that Krishna is the reason for that demigod also. And so that's how Krishna is concluding on this. He will touch upon the demigod worship again, but now he's now going to talk about his pure devotees. That this is what his demigod worshippers do, and this is what they get. But what does his pure devotees do? His pure devotees do this. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamayaham. So Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Uh, this is considered to be one of the most so there are some verses which are instructive verses, some of verses which are descriptive verses, and these are some of the verses in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna bring in his commitment or his personal commitment to deliver, personal commitment, but taking personal responsibility to deliver a soul, and doing something, going out of his way to make sure that he does what he's promising here to do. So what is he promising here? That yoga kshemam vahamyaham. Our LIC of India use this term, but they don't do what Krishna is doing, obviously. But Krishna says, I will carry what they lack and I'll preserve what they have. When Krishna says he will do it, will he do it for each and everyone? Yes, as long as they do the part one. Part one says, it says Ananyas Chintayan.
ऐसा है ना, ऐसा बंद करेगा तो ब्लॉक हो जाता है, ठीक है.
So Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, if you are able to remember Krishna, Ananya, without any deviation, exclusive devotion, without deviation, meditate on Krishna, Chintayanto Mam, then Mam is his form, Krishna himself. And anybody who does that, for him, Krishna says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. I will carry what they lack and I'll preserve what they have. Very important verse from devotees' point of view. This is an assurance that Krishna is giving. Gives similar assurance in 9.31 when he says the Arjuna Prati Janehi Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Now, how do we understand this particular verse? Let's see through the purport that Prabhupada has given. So let's look at some other verses of Bhagavad Gita where Krishna has said something similar. Krishna has taught by instructions. Contrast. By contrast means if you Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, then I will do this. If you don't do this, then I will not do this. This is contrast, that you do this action and that this action has this consequence. If you do something opposite to this, then it will have an opposite consequence. That's understood. So Krishna has spoken similar verses in many places in Bhagavad Gita previously, and we picked up some of those verses just for understanding the point that this Krishna doesn't unconditionally trying to help us. Now his help to us, his assurance to us is conditional to we doing our part. Now, in the 4.11 also, when Krishna says that ye yatha mam prapadyante tamsta thaiva bhajamyaham mama vartama anuvartante manushya partha sarvasha. So, all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Which also means those anyone who don't surrender unto me, I do not reward them accordingly. So if you surrender 10%, Krishna will reward you 10%. Now this is becomes a general rule, uh, but here Krishna says that there's no, in general rule, you will get what you give. If you're giving 10%, you get 10%. But in this particular verse, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, Krishna takes personal ownership. He is taking personal interest in our life, and he's telling you that I will take personal interest because I will carry what you lack, and I will provide what you will, what you need. So in general, also Krishna is providing, but that is happening under the general rule, where everyone who does good get good, and who does bad gets bad. So whatever bad karma you would have incurred, whenever, as and when the fruits of those karma will pop up, you will get reactions, you will suffer. And as and when the reactions of the fruits of good karma will pop up, you will have good time in this world also. So you will enjoy in this world also. So, but all that is happening under, not under the supervision of Krishna, but without personal intervention of Krishna. But here Krishna is giving a guarantee that I am going to do something for you. This is where his personal aspect comes into play. Now as a authority, uh, if he has set the rules and everything is happening according to the rules, he doesn't need to intervene in between. However, as a person, he becomes very happy when someone is trying to wholeheartedly follow his instructions and take up to developing take up devotional service to develop love for him. And Krishna wants to do everything and anything to 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 not let this jiva go back disappointed. So he's start taking control of our life once we start surrendering to him. So these verses were 4.39 and 40, another beautiful set of verses, that a faithful man who dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdued his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it quickly, he attains the supreme peace. And on the other hand, the next verse, 40th verse, Krishna talks about ignorant and faithless person. So what happens to those, अगर जो faithless है और ignorant है, अज्ञानी है और अश्रद्धावान है, तो उनका क्या होता है, that is given in the next verse, where that in the when person who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness, they fall down, and for doubting soul there is happiness neither in this world or in the next. So next, Krishna again says that see everything in me. For one who see me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor he is ever lost to me. Now, these are again beautiful statements, that commitments Krishna is making, that if you endeavor for perfection, if you endeavor to achieve me, I will do my part also. I'm ready to take 10 steps towards you, provided you take one step towards me. And then, and how many of those are there, those are very few people, because very few people are able to give up their attachment for desires and for sense gratification, for doubts. They are unable to give up those and take up come to Krishna. And how many of those are generally there? Krishna says manushyanam sahasreshu, out of thousands of men, thousand is not literal thousand, out of many many men, only one may endeavor for perfection. One may try for perfection. Today, 53 people are trying for that perfection. So, and out of that also, not everyone will come on every Sunday. Not everyone, all 53 will come on, get up at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. or 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. and log into Japa session on Zoom. Not everyone will come. Out of them, few will come. Again, hardly anyone knows me in truth. Hardly some will continue. And what happens because of this, because Why they fall apart? Because of they are unable to tackle the Maya, unable to tackle Maya Devi. The They are unable to overcome Maya. And why they are not able to overcome Maya? Because they don't surrender to me. They don't take shelter of me, because without my shelter nobody can fight Maya. Maya is so strong. Maya is Devi. She's empowered by me. So no one can, a jiva, small jiva, with all his might, all his support from all the demigods, also cannot fight Maya. And so no, unless you surrender to me, there is no way you can fight Maya. And unless you fight Maya, you cannot you cannot come to a conclusion that Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. And for that to do, you may take many births. Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Matlab, many births later you may come to this kind of a conclusion. And that is purely because your unwillingness to surrender to me, your willingness to hold on to those impure desires, impure doubts, impure attachments, which we are not able to give up, because of which we are not able to surrender to me in small way or in big way, and therefore you are not able to make much progress towards me. So so this becomes a millions of birth project for us to be able to realize that Vasudevam Sarvamiti. It's a truth, but we may understand it in this birth at this moment, or we may understand it after 1 million births from now, and going through various species, whatever, wherever our karma will take us, and we may understand it then. But the proof remains the same. The truth remains the same. The truth doesn't change. So Krishna is saying, why don't you accept it today? Why waste time? Why waste time and time, energy, and effort in trying to enjoy independently more? You have already done that for so many millions of years. Now, having got the opportunity, got the knowledge, why not take up to devotional service seriously? Why not do it now? Why again you want to go through another cycle of birth and death? so 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 Prabhupada, Krishna Prabhupada says that Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. What is the qualification? Who is this? Who are these people? And what do they do? If you have to do Ananyas Chintayanto Mam banna hai agar, to kya karna padega? So this is what Krishna Prabhupada is saying in the purport, that the one who is unable to live for a moment without Krishna consciousness cannot but think of Krishna 24 hours a day, being engaged in devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of God, rendering other services, cultivating friendship, and surrendering fully to the Lord. So the 9 processes of devotional service are explained. So we have to do all of these, and all these activities are all auspicious and full of spiritual potencies, all of these, and especially the hearing and chanting, because we get knowledge about Krishna, and by knowledge, when we chant, we get realizations, and with that, our curiosity to learn more about Krishna arises, and we learn more about Krishna, and then that becomes cyclical. You know more, and you chant more, and again you know more, again you chant more with more knowledge, with more perfection, more happiness, and then that's how the test in chanting gets developed. So then you don't want to give up chanting, in any condition. so this is uh, so this is where Krishna says that all activities are full of potencies, full of spiritual potencies, which can make devotee a perfect in self-realization, so that his only desire remains is to achieve the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee undoubtedly approaches the Lord without difficulty. This is called yoga. Then Prabhupada talks about little bit about the yoga kshemam vahamyam. Now, the kshema is a protection, and yoga, as Prabhupada translate, is is what we desire, what we what we have, what we have and what has. So we generally, whatever we have, we are normally worried of its protection, that what if someone takes it away, whatever we possess. If we don't have it, then how we will get it, that becomes our meditation. And if we have something, then how we can protect it, that becomes our meditation. And Krishna says, I will do both. I will do both at all levels, at the physical level, mental level, and spiritual level, so that the gross body, subtle body, and spirit soul, at all three level, this protection can be offered to a jiva. And Kshema refers to the merciful protection of the Lord. The Lord helps the devotees to achieve Krishna consciousness by yoga. When he becomes fully Krishna consciousness, the Lord protects him from falling down to a miserable conditioned life. So let us discuss the examples. So now we have these two conceptions. One is Ananya Chintayanto Mam, and the second is Yogakshema Vahamyaham, that Krishna is provide or carry whatever you lack, Krishna is giving you, and he's protecting whatever is deficit, whatever is in deficit you don't have, Krishna is giving you that, and whatever you have, Krishna is protecting that, so that you can continue to do what Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. So अनन्यस चिंतयन्तो माम अगर आप करते हैं तो कृष्णा विल टेक केयर ऑफ यू इन दिस वे, so that you can continue to do ananyas chintayanto mam without any interruption, without any deviation. Not that you give up doing that, because that you may do ananyas chintaya and get Krishna to do yogakshema vahamyam. But if you now uh, having reached a condition where comfortable condition, you stop doing ananyas chintayanto mam, then Krishna says, then he will not give. He will also stop doing yogakshema vahamyam for him. Then you are then otherwise governed by the law of karma. But here Krishna is saying that I'm going to take personal interest in your life as a devotee because you are doing ananyas chintayanto mam. So let us pull out some examples. Please feel free to unmute and share uh, what is uh, what is your understanding of that. Who practiced in your knowledge? Who practiced this Ananyas Chintantu Mam, and who was given this facility of Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham? Pick up any examples from scriptures, history, acharyas. You should
Hare,
have a lot of those.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Our beloved Acharya Srila Prabhupada is the greatest example in front of us of that Prabhuji.
Okay.
That because I was listening to one of the Acharya, he was saying that Tamal Krishna Maharaj was speaking about Srila Prabhupada, that whenever he was not translating Srimad Bhagavatam or books, whenever he was not chanting, whenever he was not doing archanam service or any kind of devotional service, still he was murmuring something. Means he always used to be, and if Tamal Krishna Maharaj says that if I keenly used to listen to that, it used to be some kind of conversation regarding Krishna only. So besides his service, beside his life, whenever free time was there, although there was no free time with Prabhupada, in sense that he was always 24/7, he was engaged in, and even at night, whenever Prabhupada used to wake up sometime, some of the Acharya says that he used to talk about Krishna, or means he used to instruct them in very harsh words sometimes, that leave this Maya and get engaged in Krishna consciousness, and then he used to get sleep. And again, how Krishna was that the second chapter part Krishna has done that when he was traveling to New York, he was alone, barely with some money, and he was not knowing anyone. So and already suffered 2 heart attacks, and there was untoward events, means beside heart attack, untoward events on Jalduta. But still, Krishna kept on protecting him till the last breath of his life. And Krishna gave him many things, like whatever was required, like Srila Prabhupada used to cook food for the devotees who came for his lecture. And he was just Srila Prabhupada was just thinking that I'm so old and there must be someone to just help me. And at that day itself, some of the devotee, means one of the devotee, came to just check how he's managing all the affairs, and he started helping him in cooking. So Krishna was at every step. Krishna was helping him. Krishna was giving him his protection and his. Though he is means one of the eternal associate of Krishna, but it was means on the physical material world level. It is the example of this particular shloka.
Yes,
Thank you.
Swami.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much. Yeah, very nicely explained. So Prabhupada was always thinking of Krishna, and yet, Krishna reciprocated profusely, very nicely. Not that whatever he did was where Krishna reciprocated. Krishna also, Prabhupada also waited. He spent a lot of time because he he didn't got. So till the age of 70, when he went to US, in India, he tried preaching so much for so many years, and he didn't even had one disciple. He was barely able to, barely able to run the Back to Godhead magazine, and that also had stopped. Then he had to go to Vrindavan, still live in the Radha Damodar temple, and start translating Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam publishing, first canto publishing, also was such a big task for him, such a big effort. So though everyone was giving him respects per se, but very few people were showing interest in learning Bhagavatam and living Bhagavatam according to the instructions of Bhagavad-Gita and Bhagavatam. And that is what the grand ideas that he had then also, that you want to start a worldwide movement. He just don't want to do 7 days Bhagavad Saptaha where people come after attending jobs and then go back and doesn't nothing changes in their life. He wanted people to he wanted Bhagavatam to change people's lives, and that could have been done only with serious preaching. It's not social etiquette. Just come and hear katha and go back. We wanted people to implement the teachings of Bhagavatam in their lives, teachings of Bhagavad Gita in their life. And with that, he was trying all over India. He tried preaching in Allahabad, uh, Jhansi, and many places, and he was a failure and from material standpoint. But his determination to serve Krishna never diminished even one bit. He was never thinking that the thought never came to his mind that why should I serve Krishna? Should I stop serving Krishna? Because I'm trying to serve Krishna and I'm failing for all these years. And so what is the use of serving Krishna? Does Krishna even exist? He didn't even thought it once. All this time he was thinking how otherwise, if this is not working, what else will work? Because his determination to serve Krishna was unmatched, unbroken, never shaken. So that is his mood. That was his mood. Ananyas Chintantu Mam. And while going to US, he also took 40 rupees with him. He had only 40 rupees that time, Indian currency. In US, he couldn't use it because nobody could give him dollars taking those 40 rupees. So he kept it with himself. And after he went in 1965 and lived there for a few years, and I think he came back for the first time in India in sometime in 1968. And that time he came by air. He didn't came by sea. And from Delhi airport to Chippewada temple, where he used to live, he had a residence there. And so he took a rickshaw and he paid that rickshaw wala the same 40 rupees which he had taken to United States. And so he went practically without money and he returned with the same 40 rupees and used it for going back to the temple. And then so he says that he took away all my money, though it was supposed to be less. Rickshawala at odd hour, nobody was there to help him, but the 40 rupees were used then after 2 years, after almost 3 years. so so Krishna provided him everything, whatever he desired. When the right situation came, the right effort, I mean the efforts were always there. But when things were to happen, they happen, and they happen in a glorious way. It just didn't send him one, two, three disciples. He had thousands of disciples and hundreds of temples, uh, practically he was traveling all around the world. Uh, he traveled around the world 14 times, it is said. So from America to Tokyo to New Zealand and Australia, he would simply be on the plane. It was difficult. The mails, the letters that were sent, it was difficult for him to catch up on those mails, because he would always be visiting from one temple to another temple to another temple, and he was meeting dignitaries, big people, and preaching. He was talking to the reporters wherever he would go. He would invite devotees. He would conduct Ratha Yatras, and he was installing deities, opening new temples. He was so busy. So when the facilities came, he didn't stop Ananyas Chintanto Mam. That part he never stopped till the last breath. So when he left his body on 14th November, he arrived in mid-October from London. And that time also he was looking like a bag of bones. He was practically lifted from the car and then taken to the wheelchair, and from there he was brought into the temple, and then he never went out. But he took this London trip, last trip to London, and he arrived in mid-October from London in an extremely bad condition. But his desire to preach never stopped. In that condition also, while sleeping on the deathbed, he was translating Brahma Samohan Leela verses, and you read through those verses and those purports. It doesn't look like a purport being spoken by a man who is about to die. And so he had perfect consciousness, even so he never forgot Krishna, and he never stopped doing Ananyas Chintantama, and therefore Krishna also never stopped providing for him, that whatever he was needing, Krishna was profusely giving. So that's one very nice example. Anybody else? Prasad Maharaj, Chintan Mata, you want to elaborate? uh,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
yes, Mataji, please speak.
Hello. Yes, am I audible?
Yes, Mataji, you are audible, we can hear you.
Yes. Prabhuji, I don't know perfectly, but I know that from age of 5 years only, Prahlad Maharaj was constantly involved in Krishna service. So he got that kind of reciprocation also from Krishna.
Correct. Yes, you're right. And
Sudama also.
Sudama. So let's talk about Prasad Maharaj, and then we can go to Sudama. So Prasad Maharaj was engaged in. He learned about Krishna from where? You know. When did he learn about Krishna?
Prabhuji,
Before he
in
was born.
before birth,
Before
like
birth.
through
Correct.
Narad Muni.
Yes. So
Narad
Narad
Muni.
Muni. So Hiranyakashipu was away, and he was meditating, and then all devatas wanted to kill this. Prahlad Maharaj was in the womb of his mother, Kayadhu, and then they all demigods thought Hiranyakashipu इतना भयंकर है, उसका बच्चा क्या होगा? तो उसका बच्चे को अभी मार देते हैं. When he is in the womb of his mother, that time only let's kill him. But Narad Muni stops him, and not only he does that, he takes it to his ashram, and there he preaches to Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj used to used to listen, and then Kayadhu being a demon, she couldn't understood anything, but Prahlad Maharaj learned everything there. And then when he came out, he was a devotee of Lord, and he was remembering Krishna all throughout his life. And at the age of 5, when he started attending school, he started preaching to other asuras. And when his father asked about his progress in school, क्या हो रहा है, क्या चल रहा है आजकल, parent teacher meeting, and there he learned that he's talking about remembering glories of Narayana. He's singing glories of Narayana, and then he was angry. He says, "I want to become Narayana, or I want to replace that Narayana. Why are you crazy about that Narayana? What is so special about him? And who, first of all, is teaching you all this?" Then he called those teachers, and then he says, "What's happening here? What kind of a syllables are you teaching him?" They said, we never taught all this to him. We are all asuras, and we teach. We are trying to teach him what we are supposed to teach him. So we are not the source of this teaching. And then that the whole thing started, that your Narayana is going to protect you. And then he never gave up remembrance of Krishna. And then Hiranyakashipu tried killing Prahlad in various ways, and he was saved. He was saved at all levels. He was saved at the physical level because Krishna wanted Prahlad Maharaj to rule the earth, and rule a kingdom that is better than even Indra's kingdom. Create a kingdom that is even better than Indra's kingdom. And hence Prahlad Maharaj was saved at physical level. At mental level, he was not disturbed even once. Uh, one may get agitated seeing your own father is trying to kill you. But Prasad Maharaj was peaceful. At mental level, he had no agony, he had no agitation. He knew that Krishna will perfectly protect him. And at a spiritual level, Krishna, he was eternally associating with Krishna. So at there, Krishna was with him all the time, and therefore he had no fear. So at three levels, he got the protection, three-layer protection. And there we see that amazingly how he was physically protected. When even though he was thrown from the top of a cliff, he just landed safely. The elephants couldn't kill him, the serpents couldn't kill him. He drank all poison, nothing happened to him. So miraculously he was saved at a physical level. And mental level, he was never disturbed. Krishna was with him. At spiritual level, he was constantly associated with Krishna. So but he was doing his part and Krishna was doing his part. That's also a very nice example of Ananyas Chintayanto Mam and Yogakshema Vahamyam. Any other example anybody would like to share? Yes, Chandramandra.
Puji, I have a small doubt. I'm so sorry. When you told me that there are 12 Mahajans, so then I understand there are multiple Brahmas in multiple universes. So who is this Mahajan? All the Brahmas put together or one single Brahma?
So for our universe, our Brahma is our Mahajana.
Yeah, but for Lord Krishna, the entire spiritual and material world is his kingdom put together.
That is his kingdom, correct.
So when we talk about 12 Mahajans, is it that, so it is Mahajans are of Krishna, not for us. Krishna decides these are the Mahajans. I mean, we are lesser mortals, we cannot decide who is the Mahajan. So according to him, it is for us, it is only this Brahma or all the Brahmas, all the universes
So
are Mahajans.
all the Brahmas in all universes will act like a Mahajana because they are given this responsibility. So so our Mahajanas or our teachers are from our perspective. We belong to this universe, and this Brahma is the four-headed Brahma is the one who is going to be giving us this knowledge, who has the ability and responsibility to give us this knowledge. And anybody who learns from this Brahma in disciplic succession is the one from whom we can learn this knowledge. So from our perspective, our Brahma and these 12 Mahajanas who appeared in this universe, they are concerned. But there will be Brahmas in every universe, as in the Brahma Sammohana Lila, Krishna says that Krishna called all Brahmas. And he was thinking that he's the only Brahma, and then he called, and hundreds and thousands of Brahmas came, with 1,000-headed Brahmas came, and Krishna says they are Brahmas of those respective universes. So what to speak of your universe? And that's another Leela, that's another pastime. But there will be Mahajanas in those. The Brahmas will act as Mahajanas in those universes as well, because Brahma is also a Jiva Tattva. Brahma is also a Jiva Tattva. So there will be Jivas in those respective universes where they will have opportunity to preach there also.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, we can have a couple of more examples of this. Yes, Swapnil Prabhu. Yeah, you want to speak about Arjuna and Krishna's relationship, Krishna's reciprocation with Arjuna?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
I think we all know it's a complete devotion what Krishna had from Arjuna and Pandavas, and it was that unconditional devotion that Krishna had, and Krishna reciprocated, not only protect them but win over Kauravas. That's a simple example what we have.
Correct. So Arjuna always was a devotee of Krishna, and Krishna reciprocated by becoming his chariot driver, then protecting him all throughout their life, also becoming chariot driver in the most important war which they had to fight, and giving him clear his doubts, and in the process gave knowledge to the whole world. This knowledge of Bhagavad-Gita was spoken, and thereby Krishna also reciprocated. Arjuna also did his part. There are acharyas also, various acharyas. We heard Raghunath Das Goswami's pastimes from Nitai Madhav Prabhu. And in that session also, we heard at many places that Lord Krishna himself was coming and protecting. So there were, so he was, so he didn't had a kutir, and in Vrindavan then that time all the tigers were wandering around him, and then Krishna himself came and protected him. At that time he came and stood there guarding him, and then Sanatan Goswami saw this and he said, don't don't do this, don't make Lord work for you, you are supposed to be the servant of Lord. So build a kutir for himself so that you can live in that kutir safely. Don't make Lord do all this for you. Then later he still didn't do that, and then one day he saw a shade on his head when he was sitting in the sun writing books, and Radharani was holding her achal and creating a shade for him so that he's protected from the sun. Now these are various pastimes that we've seen that our acharyas, not far away, not way far before Prabhupada, just 400, 500 years ago, all these disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who were preaching in Vrindavan, all of them have had such experiences. That Rupa Goswami had similar experience where kheer was provided to him by Radharani herself. So and then Sanatan Goswami happens to be his elder brother, so he again chastises him that you should not have any such desires. We are trying to serve Radha Krishna. We are not supposed to take service from them. So, so multiple places we see that Krishna has been able to easily demonstrate this aspect of him, that yoga kshema vaham yaham, as long as you are able to do ananyas chintayanto mam. Another example we can think of is Ambarish Maharaj, who always engaged himself in serving Lord, and he was so when Durvasa Muni tried cursing him, Sudarshan came chasing Durvasa Muni. So and then Durvasa Muni went to Vaikuntha even and went to Lord Vishnu. He said, "This is your Sudarshan, please take it back." He says, "Yes, this is my Sudarshan, but it has come because you have offended my devotee. So you go and beg forgiveness from my devotee, and then the Sudarshan will then not harm you." Then he had to come running back to Amrish Maharaj. So when it started, he came back to him. And then he begged for his forgiveness. And then Amrish Maharaj forgives him. And then the Sudarshan stopped acting on him. So, so Srila Prabhupada example, Prasad Maharaj example, there are so many Acharyas example that we can take to demonstrate this point that Ananyas Chintanto Mam and Yogakshema Mahamyam. Krishna is protecting. Krishna is there to protect. And Krishna guarantees that I will give, I will protect. But how Krishna will give is something that that cannot be understood at times by us. One may look at Prabhupada's life for 70 years of life, and then Krishna, one may think that Krishna is not giving. That whatever Krishna has said in the Yogakshema Mahamyam is not true, because Krishna never gave anything to Prabhupada, though he was trying so hard to preach Krishna consciousness in India, though he was trying to write books. He made it so difficult for Prabhupada to write book and publish one canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Even Back to Godhead magazine couldn't operate properly, and he was not even able to make new members, sell it in the market, raise funds for him to go to America and preach. It was also difficult. And but in spite of that, Prabhupada never gave up Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. And that's where Krishna started reciprocating towards the end. And last 12 years of his life, been so glorious that so we just have to fit ourselves into the Krishna's plan, and then Krishna starts reciprocating. And so Prabhupada did that, and then everything fell in place, and then whatever he did later, last 12 years, that became glorious. Again, Krishna come back to the Anya Devatas or the demigods, demigod aspects. Yepye Anna Devata Bhakta Yajante Shraddhayanti Va Tepi Mam Eva Kaunteya Yajantya Avidhi Purvakam. So here Krishna is now saying that those are the devotees of other gods who worship them with faith, actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. Now, this is again very important verse, and at times this can be completely misunderstood. If you stop by saying that actually me, only me, when you stop there, when you stop with saying that and who worship them with faith actually worship only me. If you put a full stop here, it creates a completely wrong meaning, contrast meaning than what it should be. Because then it will mean that you worship whoever you want. It will mean that it is like worshiping Krishna. Because Krishna is saying something more important later part of this verse. He says that, "O son of Kunti," but they do so in a wrong way. So he's not recommending it. He's saying it is incorrect way of worshipping Krishna alone. Why it is worship of Krishna? Because going to reveal that in the next verse of 24th verse. But let's see what Prabhupada say in the purport. Persons who are engaged in worship of demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is offered to me indirectly, Krishna says. For example, a man pours water on the leaves of and branches of a tree without pouring water to the roots. He does so without sufficient knowledge and without observing a regulative principle. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of body is to supply food to the stomach. No need to try and feed a hand and leg separately or head separately. As long as you feed stomach through mouth, that is the vidhi, that is the regulative principle. All parts of body get nourishment. And so further Prabhupada says that the demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of Supreme Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government, not by the officers or the directors. So the dharmam to sakshat bhagavat pranita. The rules and regulation, the law will only be made by God. Others simply have to obey or implement that law, and nobody has authority to make fresh law. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. This is stated here as avidhi purvakam. So offering worship to um offering worship to officers is considered to be is compared here with offering of bribe to the officers and directors. So offering worship to demigod is compared with offering bribe to officers of government. And that's very important to know, that having known that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead today, if we again go back and start offering worship to demigod, it will be considered like this, that this is considered to be illegal, or it's considered to be is like compared with offering of bribe to the government officers, which we are not supposed to do that. Again, we don't have to be disrespectful to them, but we don't have to offer worship to them and offer bribes to them. Because they are maintained by the Supreme Lord, who is also supposed to maintain us. So we should directly now approach Supreme Lord once we know He is Supreme Lord. Anybody who has no conception of God, for them, these devatas can become intermediary God. They are immediately accessible to them as gods, but from there also they are supposed to progress further by inquiring that, are they the Supreme Lord? Can they offer me eternal happiness? Can they offer me eternal life? If the answer to that is no, then who can? And then that should push them upwards in the chain of hierarchy. And that will ultimately take them to Krishna, because Krishna can offer us eternal life and eternal happiness, both, because he is himself Satchidananda Vigraha, and he can offer that boon to us. Nobody else in this universe can do that. So Krishna says that Abrahma bhuvanar lokar punaravartino Arjuna mam upetyatu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. That ajanma Abrahma, right from the planet of Brahma to the lowest planet of hell, everything will get annihilated. And but mam upetya, but if you surrender to me, Arjuna, then you will not take birth again. So not taking birth again is the objective, because we want eternity. We want to attain eternity, eternal life, and eternal blissful life is available in Krishna's own dham, Goloka Dham, the Goloka Vrindavan, Vaikuntha, where there is no kuntha, there is no worry. So that is possible when you stop this cycle of birth and death, and by attaining Krishna's dham, attaining Krishna himself. So Krishna does not approve. In other words, Krishna Prabhupada says Krishna does not approve unnecessary worship of demigods. That's very significant statement. Uh, Another important verse, two important verses, we'll get into the question answer. That aham hi sarva yajnanam bhukta cha prabhureva cha natu mam abhijananti tatve tatvenatascha vantiche. That I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature will fall down. Will fall down because of the Abrahma Bhunar Lokar Punaravartino Arjuna. Because even Brahma is considered to be the highest demigod amongst all. Brahma, and if his loka is going to be destroyed, then what to speak of other demigods? So there is no hope for us to worship any other devata if we wish to achieve the permanent happiness. If we want to attain permanent life and permanent happy life, then there is no hope for us but to come to Krishna consciousness, come to worship of Krishna. And that's been stated very categorically in this particular verse, because Krishna says here that aham hi sarva yajnanam bhukta cha prabhuvacha. So that sarva yajna, in third chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, ninth verse, Krishna says that yajnarthat karmanam yatra lokoyam karma bandhana. That unless you perform activities as a sacrifice, you are lokoya karma bandhana, you are incurring karma bandha. Whatever otherwise than the yagya, otherwise than sacrifice, what otherwise than activities done for Krishna, if you do anything else, that becomes a karma bandha. That will cause you bondage, because that will produce a fruit. Anything that you do as a sacrifice to Krishna, as a sacrifice, that will not yield any reaction. So what is the sacrifice is now elaborated here further. That what do you mean the sacrifice? Yajnarthat karmano anyatra. When you do karma for yajna, then there is no reaction, otherwise there are reaction. That is what 3.9 tells, and that is elaborated here. That Krishna says aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhu. Bhokta means enjoyer and Prabhu is master. So I am the one, by performing any yajna, I am the one who is supposed to enjoy that yajna, or the offerings which are given in that yajna is supposed to be enjoyed by me alone. Even though you may perform a yajna to satisfy some demigod, it is all those yajnas, the phala comes to me. The ahuti comes to me, the fruit, the sacrifice offering comes to me alone ultimately. And it may come to me directly if your offering is giving to me directly, or it may come to me through a demigod if you happen to be worshipping a demigod. If your ahuti is performed for some demigod, through them it will come to me, but I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices and I am the supreme master. A less intelligent person, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods or temporary benefits. Therefore, they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result. So he says, even if you want some material desires to be fulfilled, you go to Supreme Lord. There's no point in for you to go to anybody else, because Supreme Lord can grant you your material desires as well as he can give you pure devotion, which nobody else can give. And with pure devotion, you will become eligible to attain permanent happiness and permanent life, the eternal life in his dham. The last verse which we'll talk about today is is the different path, different results, has the title. Yanti deva vrata devan pitru yanti pitru vrata bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyaji nopimam. The important part in this verse is that Krishna is now clearly saying that if you take a train to Chennai, you will go to Chennai. If you take a train to Delhi, you will come to Delhi. But if you are desirous of going to Mayapur, you should take a train for Mayapur, which is in a different directions. You can't hope that taking any train you can go to the same place. One place, Mayapur. If you are desirous of going there, you should take a train which goes towards east or goes towards Mayapur. Not every train will take you to the same destination. So different path does not lead to same destination. It leads to different results. So Krishna says in this verse that those who worship the demigods will take birth amongst the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors, Pitru, go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So the important part in this verse is the last sentence, that Madhya Yanti Madhyaji Nopi Mam. That those who worship me will live with me. Then this is the most significant part we should take away from this verse. The purport Prabhupada says that unfortunately many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live, and because they do not know them, they fall down. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahma Jyotir. The Krishna consciousness movement um, is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire human society, to the effect that by simply chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back to Godhead. So we'll summarize. Um, now this section we've seen through multiple verses which come earlier, and also in the 7th chapter, also in the 9th chapter. Krishna is comparing the demigod worshippers and pure devotees. The pure devotees are devotees who worship Krishna without deviation. Ananya Chinta Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. Ananya Chetaha Satata Yomam Smarati Nityashaha Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Yoga Tasyaham Sulabha Partha. So Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. So all the pure devotees who are worshipping Krishna in this mood, and versus those who are worshipping demigods. Now, previous sections, Krishna has spoken about Mayavadi philosophers or the non-worshippers also, those who don't come to Krishna. But in this particular section, Krishna is comparing these two section of devotees who have some conception of God, who have taken up worship of a god of their choice, could be Krishna himself or Krishna of some other demigods. And Krishna saying, what kind of results will they all achieve? That by worshipping demigods, one cannot attain Krishna. Hence, it is not approved by Krishna. Krishna want all living entities to return to his dham. The whole purpose of giving Bhagavad-Gita, telling Bhagavad-Gita, is not to induce Arjuna to fight a war, but to give knowledge using which we can attain Krishna at the end of our life. This knowledge is so critical. That's why it is called the most confidential knowledge, which is revealed in this 9th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. So the demigods can only be worshipped at the beginning stage, where we are rising from gross godless materialism. Godless materialism, where we have no conception of God, or we consider ourselves as God, or whatever, nature as God, or it's practically the person aspect of God is completely missing. At that stage, from that stage, when we are rising upwards, we may temporarily take up worship of some demigod at the beginning. But knowing that they are unable to give us our ultimate objective of stopping the cycle of birth and death and attaining eternal happiness, eternal happy life, then we should inquire further that if these demigods, because beyond object of senses for enjoyment, these are the inquiries that a human being is expected to make, is supposed to make, or what is the purpose of my life? And this is the conclusion that one may get by studying a scripture like Bhagavad Gita, that purpose of life is not to enjoy on the planet, but to stop the cycle of birth and death and attaining eternal happy life in Goloka Vrindavan, Dham of Krishna. And how to do this? is by remembering Krishna at the time of death. How to remember Krishna at the time of death? Just hold on. Yeah. So how to remember Krishna at the time of death? By remembering him all throughout life. And while even performing our occupational duties, mam anusmara yuddha cha maya arpita mano buddhi. And that's how we progress. And why will we remember Krishna? By cultivating knowledge about Krishna. We can develop remembrance of Krishna. How to cultivate knowledge of Krishna? By listening to, by approaching a spiritual master. Why spiritual master become important? Because spiritual master has been given special mercy by Krishna. So Krishna consciousness is a preaching movement, it's a mass preaching movement, but the change of heart happens one heart at a time, because Krishna will reciprocate with each person in the manner they surrender to Krishna, in the to the extent that they surrender to Krishna. And thereby Krishna is changing one heart at a time. As one desire to change, or Krishna manifests that change. If one doesn't desire for such a change, then Krishna remains aloof. Krishna remains udasina vadasina. He just waiting for you to express that desire so that he can reciprocate. So uh, so therefore demigod should not be worshipped unnecessarily. At the beginning stage they can be worshipped, but once we get information about Krishna's glories, his opulence, his pastimes, by the mercy of Lord and his devotees, one should only worship Krishna alone from that moment onwards without any deviation. And then that will enable Krishna to reciprocate in the proportion of our dedication, surrender, and service to Krishna and love offered to him. And then reaching his dham becomes very easy. So another couple of opportunities we have for cultivating such remembrance of Krishna. All 42 people, all 42 devotees are welcome on these two programs of morning japa, wherein we cultivate the remembrance of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and reading, which happens in the evening, for reading of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, which happens, uh, and thereby we continue cultivation of remembrance of Krishna, so that at the end of our life, we don't miss out. We will help. That will Krishna can help us remember him, give us his remembrance by his mercy, and thereby we can attain Krishna at the end of our life. So we'll stop here and we'll take any questions that anyone might have.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji. Oh,
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
may I
Please go ahead,
continue,
Prabhuji.
sir? Okay.
Yeah, we'll just see if there are any questions in the chat box.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Mandaji.
Prabhuji, I just I'm just finding one thing a bit contradicting. Just now before last shloka, you were explaining that if we have some material desire, though it is not a devotional service to Krishna, but we should pray to him for that and he will fulfill the desire. But in the starting of the session, what I understood that you were telling ki if we have something, we are asking the Supreme Lord for something which is hindering the spiritual journey, then he will not going to fulfill it. So I am finding both the things a bit contradicting. Can you explain, Prabhuji?
Yes, very nicely picked up, Mataji. Thanks for this question. So at the beginning, जैसे कि बच्चे हमारे होते हैं, बच्चे we want our kids to study, and for that to happen, or for we want our kids to take medicine, so we may give them some allurements initially, But eventually we want kids to pick up study and start studying themselves, and which happens to be for their benefit once they understand it. So that will not be given every day. So initially, when they are small, when they are new to studies, we may give them allurement saying that if you study, I will give you some chocolate. Now that habit is expected to go away as a kid grow and become more responsible. Then we expect him to manage his study on his own without chocolates, without asking for chocolates, because he has a bigger goal to achieve. So similarly, initially uh, when in the story, when the son is the prince is serving some minister, or prior to that, the prince was outside the kingdom only. He was not even within the kingdom. So in order for him to get back into the kingdom, get back within the palace of father may initially grant him some allurements. Everything is within the control of father. So in order for him to make our faith stronger, he in the initial period he may grant some of our material desires. But if we continue to remain attached to those desires, we may stop he may stop fulfilling those desires later. If a child study only when he's given chocolate, initially it may work, but eventually we may stop giving him chocolate and we may still force him to study, right? Similarly, Krishna will if we become attached to the chocolate, not to the study and not to our objective of study, then we may find that initially we were getting chocolates, we were getting our material desires fulfilled, eventually those stop getting fulfilled. And then that becomes a crossroad. Then should you continue worshipping Krishna? Is Krishna no more powerful? If one may have no knowledge, or one may have less knowledge, one may conclude that Krishna may be जितने पावर में था उन्होंने दे दिया, अभी मुझे शायद दूसरे किसी डेमिगॉड के पास जाना पड़ेगा, so that I can continue to get my material desires fulfilled. Because by fulfilling material desires, one is actually getting attached to those desires, and that's not spiritual progress. That becomes a hindrance then in the path of spiritual progress. So initially Krishna may give, eventually he may stop giving, and then he may fulfill those desires which will help us progress on the spiritual path. So this choice that happens from within, provided we are surrendered to Krishna, and thereby we can that's the reason sometimes any setback devotees receive, they take it as a mercy from Krishna, because they understand that had that desire been fulfilled, one would have gone further ahead and had more series of desires arising from there, and then eventually that would have taken us away from Krishna. And hence at times Krishna will not fulfill those desires, and that can potentially visibly can create some hardship for some devotees. A devotee who is in knowledge, who is in proper association, will be told by his senior devotees, or will understand himself that not getting his desire fulfilled means Krishna wants him to take more shelter of Krishna, is stronger attachment to Krishna he has to now demonstrate, and do things which are favorable for bhakti, and not avoid doing things which are unfavorable for bhakti. So this way Krishna will also balance, and initially he may grant, but eventually he may stop granting. So it is said sometimes that if one is too attached to the wealth, Prasad Maharaj was not attached to kingdom. Dhruva Maharaj, after taking darshan of Lord, he said, I don't want to rule. But Krishna says, no, you will have to rule. Yudhishthir Maharaj was not interested in ruling kingdom, not interested in living in a palace and ruling a kingdom. But Krishna says, no, for dharma sansthapanarthaya, you have to do that. But who will establish dharma? Who will perform Raja Dharma and establish rule of just and proper rule? Who will do that? Ashwatthama cannot do that. You have to do it, and you have to do it as a service. So though as these kings were not attached to the wealth, but they were given this as a service because of their detachment to the opulence, but invisibly those kings were living in palaces. They were Kshatriya kings, so they had their wives, they have their paraphernalia. So externally seeing, they were seen as a king, normal kings, but internally they were detached from the wealth, they were detached from the opulence. And seeing their detachment, Krishna gave them that service.
Thank
Not
you,
that,
Prabhuji.
so that's
I
how
got the point.
we understand it.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. You explained very nicely. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu. Again.
Hare Krishna. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Shall I?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Yes, go ahead.
Prabhuji, you explained very well and we understood that aspect. One thing which is going in my mind is Krishna is so powerful, potential, and supreme. Why he was not able to deliver to mercy to his son and his family, who are further we study, and when we see the history of that Krishna's son and his family, they are not that what do you call? I'm not having the word, but they are not that approachable to the Lord, and they could not deliver better in their life.
So, yeah, Yadavas, you're referring to? Hello?
Yes, Prabhuji. Actually,
Yeah,
Vinod Prabhuji is
so
referring Yadvas only.
Yadavas, okay, yeah. So,
Hare
Gandhari actually cursed Lord Krishna that just like I've lost all my sons and all my relatives are dead and I'm weeping here. Yadu women also will, do that. And Krishna smiled. So all the demigods have taken birth. Now Krishna was about to complete his pastime, and he wanted. So Yadu dynasty, his kula Yadavas were so powerful. They were all demigods. So how will they die? Who can kill them? So only they themselves can kill themselves. And therefore the Yadavi happened. The war broke within the family, and then they all fought a war and king killed themselves, and then went back to their respective abodes. So it was more of a opportunity to wind up his pastime, and that's why his ancestors or his sons, they've all fought with each other. So that comes in the first canto of Bhagavatam, where Gandhari curses Krishna, and he used her curse to wind up this pastime of and uh, wind up the appearance of all the demigods in his kula as a Yadavas, and thereby complete send them back to their respective abodes.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Swapnil. Swapnil, I think you have asked a question. You can just elaborate on that.
Prabhuji, that was one of the question. As a follower of science, I also try and follow a lot of what is universe, how big is universe, and if Krishna is Lord of all lords and Lord of universe, then do you think that the Prithvivasi and other than Prithvivasi, the whole universe, where science is trying to find out extraterrestrial livings, would also be the devotees of Krishna, or this is?
So the living beings on another planet, will they be? Could there be devotees of Krishna on those planets? So depends, because it is said in Bhagavatam that the demigods are praying to take birth on this planet, the Bhuloka, so that they can practice devotional service, bhakti. So it's a we saw this. We were discussing
Sorry,
Bhishma. Hello, Hare Krishna. You can hear me, okay? Hare Krishna. Swapnil, you are able to hear?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, I got disconnected.
Sure. So what we were saying that is that the other planetary systems, are either superior or inferior to Bhuluka. And they have higher higher means of enjoyments and or the suffering conditions. So so it is in both the conditions, where there is extreme enjoyment and extreme suffering, the bhakti becomes difficult. And we saw this in the example when we were discussing about Bhishma. So Ma Ganga, she took Bhishma Dev to Swarga when he was child. And there, instead of engaging himself in the sense enjoyment, he studied Shastra. Now this is unusual. Nobody goes to Swarga for studying Shastra. It's like going to Mauritius and preparing for your IIT entrance. It's difficult, right? Because you don't go to Mauritius for studying, doing some serious study, because IIT requires serious study or whatever big exams that you need to give. So typically a place like that has so much opportunity for enjoyment, where it is going to become increasingly difficult for jivas to perform bhakti. So the bhuloka is the place where bhakti is performed. Even though opportunity in facilities available everywhere, the inclinations are going to be less. It's like going to Las Vegas and trying to people go to Las Vegas for what? For gambling. And so once you go there with a desire to gamble, and then doing something else becomes difficult. So people with a desire to enjoy better quality of sense enjoyment, people advance themselves to these planets. They go to this planet with those desires only. And once having gone there, this is what they are likely to be doing in all probability. But when they will realize, and that as Krishna confirmed, that as your punya become a kshina or weak or exhaust, then you are by default going to come down to the material world in this bhuloka, and from this is where you will get opportunity to perform bhakti. So though in theory it will be available, the facility will be available, opportunity will be available, it will be extremely difficult for those living entities to perform bhakti, because performance of bhakti requires austerity. It requires mood of surrender. It requires submissive attitude. Now you go to Swarga because you have superior punya, superior facility, superior than all the people on the bhuloka. So there it is not, it is impossible, but it is very difficult to perform bhakti. Does that answer your question, Sutil?
Yeah, Prabhu. I mean, it's a big subject. It will take my limited trying to understand more. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Myself, Sunil Mane. I have been introduced by Sujata Gaude Mataji. Sir, I would like to have a question that is concerned to kind of personal question. I'm been introduced over here in ISKCON for about last 2 years, and I'm continuously been given some details regarding the Krishna and this and that. But I was the follower of Sri Ganpati, and every time in the morning I was been doing Ganesh Stotram, and then I was leaving home. But now, for last 1 week, it has happened that whenever I'm sitting in front of uh, my this one, so it becomes like whenever I'm starting Ganpati Stotram, I'm doing like Jai Sri Krishna. So is it like I feel sorry regarding the thing that I'm going wrong about the Ganpati. So is it going in the correct manner, or something like?
So Sunil Prabhu, thanks so much for asking this question, and it's very candid question, and it's very commonly faced question because Ganesh is the deity that we all wake up to. Once we open our eyes, all of us would have seen Ganesh ji in our homes, in our social, festival in Maharashtra especially. So Ganesh ji is one god whom we are introduced right at early stage of our childhood, and becomes attached to it. at times. So that's one part of it. But when you are praying to Lord Ganesha, should you stop praying to Lord Ganesha? So should we, once having come to Krishna consciousness, should we? So that's what Krishna recommends. Krishna clearly says that you need not, pray to any other god. But Ganesha is also a position, and Krishna himself has manifested as expanded himself as Ganesh, Lord Ganesh, and it is said that. Uh, because there was no qualified being available at that time, he had to expand himself as Lord Ganesh, and he himself is Ganesh. But does it mean that should we continue to worship Ganesha? We continue to worship Ganesha, asking for pure devotion to Lord Krishna. So so at times what happens is we we perform certain activities as a culture and or as a tradition. As a culture means everybody does it. As a tradition means we have been doing it, and at times we get attached, emotionally connected with those activities. It could be speaking Ganesh Stotra, Shiva Stotra, Shiva Stuti, whatever. And if we practice it long enough, for long enough time, we may get attached to those activities, and giving it up immediately can become a challenge. But definitely the Falashruti, there is a Falashruti, there is a Stotra and there is a Falashruti. The Phala that we are asking, now we should be very careful with what we are asking. So there we should not ask for any material benefits from Lord Ganesh also, even if you are finding it difficult to give up the worship of Lord Ganesh. So there you ask for pure devotional service from Lord Ganesh, because Lord Ganesh is also a devotee of Lord Krishna. And as long as far as what you are mentioning, that you are started to chant while chanting Ganesha prayer, you come you say Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, or Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You remember that. Now that's that's fine. I mean, you can pray to Lord Ganesha by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra also, because this will become a primary tool for us to access everything. And it will not be wrong as long as you are taking name of Lord who is Ganesha's Lord. As long as you take his, praise him or worship him, Ganesha is not going to become unhappy with you. So we should not worry about that for certain. So continue to approach Lord Ganesh also, if you wish to continue worshipping him in some way and form. But don't ask for any material benefits. Ask for pure devotional service from him, and then that will help make your faith further firm in the feet of Krishna, and you will be able to take shelter of Krishna with more conviction.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
My question was somewhat related to the previous one. Actually, I was worshipping demigods before, and now also I'm worshipping. But previously, I was not. I was completely unaware about Krishna. So now that I know about Krishna, so I am worshipping Krishna as well as the demigods. So I hope I'm not doing anything wrong, because I offer everything to Krishna first and then to other demigods.
Correct. So as I said, if we have some emotional attachment to those deities, so Krishna says you need not, but you can, but you need not. You don't have to do it, because once you have fed the stomach, all limbs are going to get nourished. Once you have watered the roots, water is going to go everywhere, and the whole tree is going to get nourished. So you need not do that. However, as a matter of, it's going to be much of it's a realization that comes to us whenever it comes to us, and then till such time that conviction comes, and then we, up till now, but that's again more of a concession, not as a instruction. It's not an instruction. It's like asking a diabetic, when a diabetic patient goes to doctor and says that I know I'm not supposed to eat sugar, but I can't live without eating sugar. So what do you advise? Then doctor may say that, okay, you should not eat sugar, but if you find it so irresistible for you not to eat sugar, then maybe eat once a day. Now, this eat once a day is not an instruction. It's a concession that the doctor has given. Now, objective is not to create, eating one day, can I make it twice a day, and can I make it thrice a day, and can I make it 4 times a day? Objective should not be to go in that direction. Objective should be to give up eating sugar at some stage. But because we are not able to do that, we are given a concession of eating it once a day, something like that. So up till now, until a stage where we come to a level where we say that, okay, we we need not worship demigods, and that may require some conviction, some knowledge, some faith, and some conviction, and also the faith that they are not going to feel offended about me stopping to worship them, because now I'm going to be worshiping the Supreme Lord, who happens to be their Lord also. So with this knowledge, when we stop that worship also, it's it may take time. For somebody it may take one day, for someone it may take 1 month, and for some it may take a 1 year. But up till now we reach that stage. So that's the stage that we all need to travel and reach, and ultimately then this duality will get over. Then you can just have Lord Radha Krishna deity or Gaur Nitai or Jagannath deity in your home, and you're done with that. That's it. But until then, if you wish to still continue worshipping some demigod, you worship them in this mood to asking them for getting a pure devotion to Lord Krishna, asking them to help you increase your faith in the feet of Lord Krishna, asking them to help you take shelter of Lord Krishna, asking them to help you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra with faith, and to for that take their mercy. So Ganesha is a devata of buddhi, intelligence. So ask him for intelligence to understand Bhagavad Gita more, to implement the teachings of Bhagavad Gita in our practice life more and more. So you can ask those kind of benedictions. But as Krishna says, you need not go anywhere. You come to me, I will give you everything. I can give you everything. That is also possible. So at whichever stage we are able to make this mental adjustment. So one has to realize that this is our adjustment at our end that has to happen. And sooner it happens, the better. But if it is getting delayed, we should know the direction in which we have to go at least. And thereby, we continue with those efforts. So, so if immediately you are not able to give up that worship for social reasons, for family reasons, and there could be multiple reasons involved. But you change the Falashruti, asking for benedictions. Change that. Ask pure devotion from the demigods also. Ask intelligence to worship Krishna from demigods. Ask for a faith, increase faith from demigods to worship Krishna, so that eventually you know the direction in which you have to travel. There is no confusion about that, at least.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Disha.
Yes, Prabhuji. The Krishna conscious knowledge is very important. But in material world, we have to study, right? Like we have to gain material knowledge, as I am studying right now, because that is valued over here. So it becomes sometimes very difficult to continue with the Krishna to gain. It becomes difficult to gain Krishna, like to grow in Krishna consciousness or to gain knowledge over here. So have to handle both ways. And I remember Narottam Prabhuji also saying that you should be good in your part also in what you are doing, and you should be good in both the ways. You have to grow in Krishna consciousness also, but where you are working or studying, they should know that there also you have to be good. And if people come to know that you are a devotee, they should know you by your work and your devotion. So how to be good in both the ways. And sometimes it happens that while studying this material knowledge, you get carried away by it and you lag behind over here. So, and as Prabhuji, you manage your work life, and
So did I miss, Divisha, you're still there? I think I missed some last portion of your question.
sorry. Yes, Prabhuji. So I said that even as you are managing your work and Krishna consciousness, so can you please share your experience as well and some
Sure.
ways?
Sure. So, so the question is how to balance, because we're all living in the material world, so we'll have to engage in material activities, and at the same time, we now know the Krishna consciousness, the importance of Krishna consciousness, the urgency of Krishna consciousness, and we wish to progress on that path also. How this though do they are they not contradictory and going in opposite directions, and how to balance those? So, so in Ishopanishad, there's a beautiful verse in this regard, and we saw that with the help of an example that uh, now having got the body, material body, and a specific duration of time on this planet in this particular birth, we have to do activities for our maintenance, which are unavoidable. And for that, we'll have to engage with the material world to that extent to be able to maintain ourselves properly. Having done that, for that, whatever is necessary that we need to do, we will have to do, uh, and that may require us to study. And dharma artha kama. Now kama, dharma and artha are the two things that one may have to do either way. So so that we can fulfill some basic desires of ourselves, and then worship Krishna for moksha. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. The four purusharthas are there. And the problem happens when we get entangled in artha and kama. Because of artha, once we get wealth or the resources, we have ability to then indulge ourselves into the kama, fulfilling desires. If we get entangled in this, then we fail to progress further. We further inquire also about moksha. What could be the ways and means in which we can attain moksha? Is there something more than that? Is there something better than that? So as long as initially, so the answer can be that so there will be a stage where we will have to do both. Now, hence, so take for example this the verse that Krishna speaks, that in the 8th chapter 7th verse, Krishna says that तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु माम अनुस्मर युध्य च मयार्पितो मनोबुद्धि मामै वैश्यसि असंशयः. So तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु माम अनुस्मर युध्य च. So what he's speaking with Arjuna, and he's advising him that you by remembering me, you fight a battle. Now Arjuna is a warrior. Arjuna is a champion warrior, and he when he's shooting arrow, he's not chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He's taking aim. He's using his psychophysical abilities, physical ability of holding a bow and shooting an arrow, aiming, eyes. He's using his material body for fighting a war. And so that's going to be the prescribed duty that he's going to perform as a Kshatriya. And while doing that, he's not chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or he's not going to be he's not going there with a bow and arrow. He's not going there with kartal for fighting a war. So what is advised here? Krishna is saying that mam anusmara yudhyaja, that you remember me and then perform your prescribed duty. So what happens there is, if our sadhana is strong, our sadhana is where we cultivate remembrance of Krishna, that is chanting. If that is strong, then while performing our occupational duties also, we don't forget Krishna. We continue. So when you go college and study your subject, you're not going to remember verses of Bhagavad-Gita, because there you have a different subject matter to deal with. However, Bhagavad-Gita or the teachings of Lord Krishna or Hare Krishna Mahamantra will remain in the background of you. So the moment the foreground is concluded, as the shutter comes down, the background becomes visible. So what is advised is this, that mam anusmara yudhyacha. The Krishna says you cultivate remembrance of me and then perform your external duties. So that whenever your external world, external duties are, so there are only two things then you have. One is Krishna consciousness, and for enabling you to perform Krishna consciousness without distress, you have to engage in some occupational duties. So occupational duties, the moment they are over, you come back to Krishna consciousness. So you only have these two areas, fields to manage. So hence this Mam Anusmara Yudhya. Mam Anusmara comes before and Yudhya comes later. And therefore the sadhana become, if the sadhana is strong, if our devotional practice, the chanting and hearing, if that is strong, then performing occupational duties, for us it could be, for you it could be studying, for me it could be working in company. So that becomes also a devotional service, because you're doing that for enabling you to perform devotional service in a stress-free manner. So if you happen to be stressed, if you happen to be hungry, if you can happen to be without home, if you happen to be without food or without clothes, you will not, we are not in the condition where we can still continue to remember Krishna in that condition. Even if we remember, we will not remember him positively. Oh, you've been so merciful to put me in this condition that I have not eaten for last 7 days. And no, we cannot do that at our condition. We will, even if we remember him, we'll be cursing him. What kind of a God you are, you put me in this condition. They will not remember law of karma that time. So we'll just be cursing him. So to remove ourselves from that, to save ourselves from that distress condition, we need some basic comfort, so that we can practice bhakti nicely. And for that comfort, we'll have to deal with the material world. Beyond that, our dealings with material world should be limited. And so if our sadhana is strong, we will be able to perform our occupational duties in a better way, in a much less distracted manner. With lesser distraction, we can continue to perform our occupational duty. And if bhakti, if we have morning sadhana, especially, that's what we all recommend everyone. Everyone has recommended. Prabhupada has recommended. All his disciples recommend this. We made Devi Shakti Mataji, who is more than 75-year-old, and she sell book like childlike enthusiasm. Anybody comes, as a child, she go and show them the book, and she's been doing it for so many years. I mean, ever since she joined Hare Krishna movement at the age of 18, since then she's distributing book, and she's 75 today. And she said that it is morning chanting which act like a fuel for her. Her guru's instruction is there, but if she stop, she says morning chanting, japa that we perform early morning, that is the fuel with which we work. And that's so true. That's so potent, because mam anusmara yudhyacha, then performing your occupational duties, whatever it could be, they become very easy if your sadhana is strong. And while performing those duties also, you continue to remember Krishna. You don't forget Krishna, because Krishna remains in the background, not in the foreground, at least in the background. So moment your occupational duties are over, you come back to Krishna. It's like example is given of a person who has gone abroad to work, and he's working hard in the maybe Dubai or some Middle East countries, and he's continuing to remember his family, because why is working there hard? So that he can send money back to his family, so that his children can go to school, his wife can pay rent, or can lead a decent life back at home. So though he's not remembering, though his family, well, whatever work he might be doing, he's doing that work with all his skill and abilities, but he's cultivating remembrance of his family in the background. He never forgets that. Similarly, whenever we are doing whatever we are supposed to do as our occupational duty, be it as a working family man, or a student, or a housewife, or a retired person, whatever our stage of life where we are, we do that part by remembering Krishna, by never forgetting Krishna. And that is possible when our sadhana is strong. Sadhana is hearing and chanting. So our morning japa is become very important, and hearing opportunities we should take up wherever we get. We should hear from senior devotees. We should hear from senior Vaishnavas who are living a life of surrendered life to Krishna, who are the Krishna reciprocate in the proportion of the surrender of people. So if you have surrendered more to Krishna, Krishna has reciprocated more with you. You have more realizations about Krishna, and that way you are more dear to Krishna. So by hearing from such devotees, we learn the secrets of becoming dear to Krishna. And that's how we progress in Krishna consciousness. So at whatever stage we are, this is a way, by cultivating strong sadhana, we will be able to perform our occupational duties. So, and also continue to cultivate a Krishna, remembrance of Krishna through hearing and chanting. That's why we say that our Krishna conscious students should become best students. So they should not become bad students. Who become bad students? Those who are watching Bollywood, they may become bad students. But once you are in Krishna consciousness, those distractions become distasteful. Not that there's no enjoyment at all, but you have better enjoyments here. And once you taste this enjoyment, you are able to give up those lower enjoyments easily. That's why a student in Krishna consciousness ideally should have far lesser distractions than other students, and therefore they are able to do well in studies, and their sadhana ensures that they do well in Krishna consciousness also.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank
such a
you.
wonderful answer.
Yeah, thanks for nice questions. I think there's one more question has come. What does it mean when Sri Krishna is worshipped in different forms in different homes? Example, worship of Jagannath deity, Bal Gopal, worship of Radha Krishna, and likewise. Meaning of bhakti or dissolved one faith. So we, I think, picked up this question last session also. I think someone asked, what if the different forms of Lord, what do they represent? And are they all one or are they all different? So what we said is, we'll just recap that, that um, the we approach Lord Krishna through Radharani. And therefore the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the Hare is Radha, and Radha Rani is a pleasure-giving potency of Lord Krishna. And so whatever bliss we experience while chanting, while doing kirtan, while taking prasad, is the part of that bliss which is enjoyed by Krishna himself through Radharani, and then we get access to that same bliss through Radharani. So it is safer for us to approach Krishna through Radharani rather than going to Krishna ourselves directly. Now, the Jagannath is merciful, more merciful than Radha Krishna, because Lord Jagannath is the form was created. The form was there when he was remembering Vrindavan pastimes, and Vrindavan means Radharani. So again, there is mercy of Radharani available in that form. Laddu Gopal is Bal Chota Bal Krishna. That also can be worshipped. Many people worship it at home, but again, directing approaching Krishna can become a little challenging. In the child form, it's still okay, but otherwise it can become little challenging. So, and hence we approach Krishna through a Shakti Tattva, through a Radharani, and that is considered to be the most effective. And the best effective way to approach Krishna is go through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is who is Krishna himself appeared in the mood of Radharani. So that's why we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Panchatattva mantra before we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So there, the potency, the mercy is magnanimity. In a magnanimous way, it has been inserted into the Panchatattva Mahamantra. Because if we get their mercy, with their mercy we get Radharani's mercy, and with Radharani's mercy we can get Krishna's mercy. So that way, it is best to approach through Guru Parampara and through Panchatattva, the Radha Krishna. Radha Krishna being the supreme most worshipable forms.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah. So just a wonderful session, and there were many debates on this topic with some other persons, and many things got cleared actually, and many things were added. And on a lighter note, what could I get from today's session is that if we want to get detached from Maya, Maya is behind us, means to make us opulent. Like there are many examples who are detached from Maya, like Yudhishthir Maharaj, Prasad Maharaj, or Dhuru Maharaj, and Krishna was behind them, that you just become opulent because I want you to become up. Though that is on lighter note, but like in many of the Purans, Prabhuji, that means whoever Puran it is, that particular demigod is just emphasized more on that. And somewhere it is written like you are the Krishna and you are this that. Like if we go to this Sapsati of Durga Mata and we go to Shiv Puran, though from our point of view, means from our society, ISKCON society point of view, it is very clear that Krishna is above them all. But sometimes what people think is, people in general think, when we try to convince them that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and if you are worshipping other gods, your goal should be the one that you explained today in the lecture. But then they come to this conclusion that since Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-Gita is followed by ISKCON only, you show us example from some other verses, and then we when we show him that just check Brahm Samhita, where Brahmaji makes a lot many examples that that he himself, the creator of the universe himself, is worshipping Krishna only. So there is no doubt in that he is the supreme. So what could be some other examples, like means if some people are not convinced by from the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, since they considered it that this is bias. So I told them that there are many publications, like you take from Gita Gorakhpur Press, or means legal this, which you can call legal publication, which emphasize on the matter. If they don't elaborate it much, but at least they don't distort it. So if you read Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from their point of view also, you will find that Krishna is the supreme there. Means the meanings are
So, so how do we
can prove
basically,
that Krishna.
what additional proof that we can give? So the proof of
Yes, Prabhuji.
pudding is in eating. So it's like by fulfilling. So when they approach today, they could be worshippers of, say, Devi, and Durga, or whatever form that whichever form which is their worshipable object. Um, what is it that they are desiring after that worship? What is the follow or a fruit end of that what is the objective? What is the, so there is an objectable worship, worshipable object, but what is their objective of worship? Now that objective is many times not clear to people why they are worshiping. So when you ask the question, why are you worshipping? When you ask a devotee in ISKCON why they are worshipping Krishna, they want to go back to Krishna. It becomes so simple. And how? By remembering Krishna at the time of death. And by how you'll remember? By cultivating his remembrance throughout the life. So it's straightforward, very simple. But for other devotees, it is not that anyone is, I've not met anyone who says that I want to go to the planet of Durga Devi, therefore I'm worshipping Durga. They have no such idea. Most of them don't even know that there could be any such planets that could exist where they can go. Most of them don't even know that whether they will get birth again or not. In spite of studying all the Puranas or the following many devatas also, they remain doubtful whether they are going to get birth or not. And they are not like young devotees. They are like those who have been worshipping other devatas for years also, they remain confused. So that is how the whole world is. That is how this whole the whole, this is Maya. This is nothing but Maya. So makes you believe what it is not, and that's exactly what is Maya. And so for such people, no matter if they are, so at times, that it's not that they are looking for evidence from Shastra. They are looking to, at times they will not be even interested in worshipping Krishna or interested in worshipping, changing their beliefs. It's not that they are looking for better information so that they can take up that better option. If one believes that if one goes to a school and believes that his school is the best school and no other better education is available anywhere, then no matter how much you ask him to come to the next school, which is a better school, which is a higher school, he will be not interested. So it's depends on what objective he is pursuing, with which he is pursuing this inquiry. It depends upon that. So it's not that the additional evidence is going to help him, but at times the objective, the purpose for which he himself is worshipping, maybe when you challenge that, then that could elaborate, that could open up, that would help him open up with a inquiry or with a different he can get a different perspective. He can become open to different perspective. That is one. Second is it is experiential. That the medicine, the goodness of medicine, the effectiveness of a medicine is best known when it is taken and the effect is felt. The positive effects are felt, experienced by the one who is taking medicine. So anyone who is a challenger, he can also experience Krishna by following the chanting and hearing. Simple process. Even if by chanting without faith, also he's able to see his anarthas going down very easily. Even without a lot of faith, also even if one take up chanting sincerely, one can experience positive changes in one's own life. And so by experiencing, they will, that is going to give them more conviction than presenting any other verses from any other sources. So once so, and whatever works, wherever you get a better experience, you accept that as a valid source, that as a valid way of worshipping, and then you continue on that path then. And that way, we can be these people can be discussed, or they can be guided as so that they don't, because at times people are more emotionally attached to their way of worship rather than knowledge. So once you're dealing with emotions, no knowledge can convince them. So only the emotion can replace them, or only a better emotion or a higher emotion can help them give up this lower emotion. And that can come when they come for prasad. They can, when they get some kind of a spiritual experience by connecting with Krishna. When they get that experience, then they say that, okay, this here, or what I get here, I get something better there, and then they are able to slowly give up that. So it could come through experiential learning also at times, not only through intellectual debates. So invite them for programs, invite them for prasad, invite such people for kirtans. Kirtan is very effective. Once whoever's devotee you could be, you can just go and sit in a kirtan and sing along with the devotees. You get instant spiritual bliss. You can experience instant spiritual bliss without any. You may not have any faith. You may dance in a kirtan and then you will experience bliss. And by dancing and singing only, a lot of Prabhupada made so many devotees in the US. All of those were musicians initially. They would simply come to garden park where he used to chant, and they used to bring their instruments and they used to play their instruments. They used to simply dance and sing. And by that, and then later on, Prabhupada started inviting them for prasad. So just by singing, dancing, and taking prasad, all of them, they become pure devotees of Lord. So no intellectual discourse could have, achieved what prasad did, or what dancing and singing did. So at times, people learn from experience, and that's a way to. That's also a very nice way to learn. So instead of, because if you are emotionally attached to some theory, it's very difficult for them to give it up. Not because of so much because of the better theory or better things are present available, but emotionally I may let down myself. I don't want to do that. I may not want to. My ego also gets hurt, so I will not, give up my ego and accept that kind of a theory. For that reason, they will not give up. Not that they have better theory to work upon, but by experience, hopefully they should be able to, give it up eventually and accept the Krishna wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Prabhuji. You elaborated on the hidden aspects, which those aspects could not come to my mind at the time of that discourse, that debate was going on. Though they are ready to accept that Krishna is the one of the God, but I was not okay with that philosophy of him. So just the debate kept on going, and all that happened. And that you just explained, it reminded me just an example of his the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada with Gopal Krishna Gokhale or Bal Gangadhar Tilak. I am not reminding that the same question which I asked you that was asked, and he told that just please be engaged in some of the practical devotional service of God, and then tell me. Then I hope he gave him the service of washing the utensils of cooking, where cooking kitchen cooking was means that was prepared, and he watched that and he was realized, he just answered Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada that I I got to know that these are deities only, these are not the murti, which we call that these are
Statue.
yeah, statues. Yes, Prabhuji. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So the 6.28, there's a verse called Sukhena Brahma Samsparsham Atyantika Sukham Ashnute. Now this is a very important verse. That Brahma Samsparsha, that connection with Krishna gives us Atyantika Sukha. That's experiential. That's why we say that touching utensils in which Krishna has played, in which Krishna has eaten, also is a contact with Krishna. Or singing in his kirtan is also contact with Krishna. Any contact with Krishna has a potency to give us spiritual bliss. And so when that contact happens through any way, through book, through Harinam, through darshan, temple, chakra, seeing chakra, or any way that contact get established with the jiva, he experiences bliss. And once he, if he's intelligent jiva, he will establish go behind the reason why he experienced that bliss. Sometimes you just experience good, acha laga, baad mein bhul gaye. But once you because then that will give them a desire to experience that bliss often, more times, and that will take them to the inquiry ki what gives me that bliss. And then eventually they can come to the same conclusion that contact with Krishna gives the bliss. So when we take his name, when we chant his name, that there is a connection that get established between the soul and the super soul, and that contact, through that we experience the happiness, through experience the bliss. So that way, somehow or the other how, yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshate. So somehow or anyhow get them to get connected with Krishna in some way or the other. And once that investment happens, when that contact happens, they will experience Krishna. They will experience Krishna's happiness, and that through that their attraction to Krishna will increase, and Krishna will guide them through heart, and devotees' mercy will help them progress on this path slowly but surely. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So we'll just see if there are any more questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So we'll end today's session. It's 1:30. And thank you everyone for patient hearing. And this kind of session always give rise to many question answers. So hope if you all have anyone has any more questions, feel free to send me a message. I'll be happy to respond. And we have Vrindavan Yatra happening in this week. So best wishes to all the devotees who are going to Vrindavan, and others who are not going can plan for Vrindavan in coming days, coming months, coming years. Not coming years definitely, but at least few days and months should all hope to go to Vrindavan someday with devotees and explore the beauty and Radha Shyam Sundar and Krishna Balram there, and get mercy from senior devotees, associating by hearing from senior devotees there. So there are many Prabhupada disciples in Vrindavan temple. Dinbandhu Prabhu is one who's living in Vrindavan since 1984. Devi Shakti Mataji is another one. She works in the Vrindavan temple, the gift shop, leading book distributor in Vrindavan is Devi Shakti Mataji, and many others. So it's always great experience to visit Dham, and especially Vrindavan Dham. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. So we'll continue with our discussions next Sunday, and hope to see you all next Sunday, and we'll talk about some other topic. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.